but there's a long tradition of these types of voices of conscience. So I just immersed myself in the world of St. Sabina and spent time with Father Mike and his peacekeepers and the community there, and tried to learn as much as I could.
We love you on Windy City Live. Yes, we do. Tell us, how did all this happen? How did this come about?
Well, I play me. I play Val Warner in Chirac, which is really cool. So when people see this movie, they are literally seeing Val, and I am a reporter in the movie.
We talk about the violence, but what can we do personally?
I think we got to be engaged, and I think engaged in a number of things. In our block, in our home, in our neighborhood, we got to be engaged. We got to fight the issues. We got to fight a government that is abandoned, you know, whole communities on the south and the west side. We got to fight a governor who's cut out every youth employment program, who's cut out violence prevention programs, who's abandoned our communities and the poor and the vulnerable. And I think we got to reach out to our brothers on the street and love them and respect them and help them, not just demonize them.
My participation is only because of Mr. Spike Lee, our leader, our director, and he reached out to me and blessed me with the opportunity to be in this film and said that his mission was to save lives in the south side of Chicago.
I'll just say like this. First of all, the history of coming to Chicago and telling my jokes as a young cat. I'm 37 now. I started about almost 15 years ago. Elroy taking me under his wing, let me do some jokes here and there for the radio stations and all that kind of stuff.
We are more than that. We are more than that. We're greater than that. And I feel like in places like this, or Chicago, or whatever you want to call it, the hood, whatever you want to call it, like, it's too much attention dwelled on the negative.
I learned that no matter what you do and how much of a genuine heart you have, and if you're coming from a good place, people are going to criticize if they don't agree with what you're doing.
Hi, we're from Empire, and you're watching the Higher Learning Network.
So how long have you been standing here?
Not too long, like an hour. So we're moving in fast. This is a good sign.
Yo, what's up? It's your man Tony Schofield from 106.3 Chicago's R&B, and you are watching Men on Higher Learning. Now, I used to hang around with some men that was into some higher learning. It just wasn't that kind of higher learning, but I got myself together now, okay?
What is it that you do in your quiet time, in your meditation time, that allows you to bring us the films that you do?
I sit courtside in Madison Square Garden, world's most famous arena.
And you're watching CTV on the Higher Learning Network. Got your head right.
Shout out to Big Fun, Mook Jones in the building, Mary Datcher. These are board members for the IMS. Can y'all get in my hand? Thank y'all for coming out. This is the Independent Music Seminar. You have as the moderator for tonight for this panel is my girl. If y'all don't know, this is the queen of hip hop radio. This lady right here fought hard to get radio in this town. Her name is Bam. We call her Barbara McDowell. Y'all give her a hand. And Bottom McDowell is 92.3, 102 and 106, right? 106. Okay, 106. You don't want to have nothing to do with gospel music. All right. And Ms. Barbara will take over the panel and introduce everybody. They can introduce themselves. All right. Thank y'all. Y'all enjoy yourselves. Suck this game up because it ain't free. All it's going to cost you by paying attention. All right? Because they'll be trying to charge me by the second. So thank y'all. I'm going to turn the air on. Right.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Women of Power panel. I'm excited to be here. Quick question, did you leave? Godfather, if you know? We're gonna get started here. I'm excited about being here tonight. What I wanna do is we're gonna start off with the ladies introducing themselves. I got you. We're gonna start with Brenda.
Hi everyone, I'm Brenda Robinson. I'm a Chicago native. I'm an entertainment attorney who works in music, film, and television. I'm a member of the Recording Academy. I sit on the board of the Grammy Music Education Coalition. I'm really happy to be here.
And next we have Ms. Angela Staten King.
Hello everyone. Let's see. Okay, the microphone is working. I am Angela Stanton King. I am the founder of the American King Foundation. It's an organization that focuses on reuniting American families that have been separated by mass incarceration. I'm also a publisher, national best-selling author, television personality. I helped pass the first step back. I don't know, I'm not used to introducing myself, but that's who I am.
And then Miss Deborah Antony.
Good evening, everybody. This is the hardest thing for me introducing myself, but I do. I have multiple companies. Mosaic Entertainment, which is a management entertainment company for producers and artists. I have TAG, which is the Antony Group, and that's under television production. I'm also the executive producer of Growing Up in Hip Hop. Dang, I do so many things. So as we talk, y'all will learn a bunch of stuff. So I don't want to keep going on. I ain't talking about myself. It's not easy. But hi, I'm Deborah Antony, and it's what I'm doing.
Okay, we're gonna get started. As we're speaking, you all should be receiving cards because we're gonna take questions probably towards the end, so you'll be able to ask whatever you want. The ladies are open book. There's no bad question at all. So we're gonna get started. First, I want to talk to Angela. Angela, can you give us a little bit about your story and what y'all laughing at? Can you give us a little bit about your story? Because you were released from prison in 2005. I'm gonna let you start.
It's hard to talk about myself. I feel kind of like Miss Deb, but my story it's a success story, but I wouldn't say that I attained my success the same way most have. It starts out kind of at the age of 5. A little girl being molested by a family member, told nothing really happened about it, so I kind of, went into my own defense and built up this wall and started making a lot of bad decisions. But I know that was the moment that kind of, when I found myself in prison at 27, I looked around and saw a bunch of other people in prison with me, and I thought about something. It's like when they ask you that question, what do you want to be when you grow up? Nobody says, I want to go to prison. So if there's something that happens that puts us on a path to prison. So for me, it was definitely that instant. Life was kind of hard for me, grew up hard-headed, wouldn't listen to anybody, didn't have any guidance, just kind of like out there and making my mistakes and learning from them. I tell a lot of children that I mentor all the time that there's a smart man and a wise man. I tell them to always be wise. I was smart, meaning that I made mistakes, but I learned from them. But a wise man, he always learns from the mistakes of others, so he does not have to make the mistakes. But at the age of 27, I found myself handcuffed to a bed, giving birth to my 5th child. This is my 2nd time in prison. And this is for a non-violent crime. I was just a hustler, you know? I was just out there. So I couldn't understand why I was going through that at that moment. It was something that was very painful. Even though I made decisions at a young age, I felt as though I was making them because I was doing what I had to do to take care of my kids. Not just out there wilding just to be wild, and I felt as though I had a reason. So I was someone that loved my children. So being handcuffed to a bed and giving birth to my daughter and have her taken from me was something that hurt me very, very deeply. Sent back to a prison. Of course, after I gave birth to my daughter, I went back to the prison. The prison was overcrowded. I was given a mat, you know, to sleep down on the floor. I'm getting up and down off the floor. I'm hemorrhaging. We were only allowed 3 sanitary napkins per day. I'm having to use a t-shirt to make up for the work. Just didn't see my family at all. My mother passed away within my first 6 months. And 6 months after my mother passed away, my grandmother passed away. I was released from prison with a $25 check and a bus ticket. And so here, go start your life over. Well, it was hard for me to start my life over because literally all I came home to was 4 children that were separated and split up amongst family members, 3 garbage bags full of clothes, and 2 tombstones. My mother one and my grandmother another. Both of the fathers of my children were incarcerated at the time. So I was someone who was not only a single mother, but I was a convicted felon. Back then, I couldn't get any housing assistance. There were certain welfare programs that I could not qualify for because I was a convicted felon. So just imagine my struggle. Not only am I having to take care of children, because when the fathers are locked up, you don't get child support. Hello? Hello, somebody. Right, so you still have to provide for these children. So I'm not getting any type of housing assistance. I'm not qualifying for government assistance. So I'm really out here and I'm faced with doing what I gotta do to survive, but also taking a chance of going back in. Me, I'm a real mom. I'm not gonna let my children starve. I'm not gonna starve. So I did what I had to do until I ran into somebody that ended up putting me on the right path.
I think it's very important that I know that some people might sit there and say, well, why are we sitting here listening to that story and this is supposed to be about hip hop?
Oh, it has to be.
And it has a whole lot to do with it because y'all have to know where hip hop started from. And I'm an originator. So I'm from that time when hip hop started. So you have to listen to that story. And because this is women in hip hop, this is something that you need to listen to because I bet you there's more of us in this room that have a similar story. It's not about if you've been incarcerated, but if you have a similar story, then not to have a story at all. So that's going to help you right there. So I just want to make the understanding understood. Okay, now we're going to
understand and understood. So I want to move on to Brenda. What made you want to become an entertainment attorney? How did you get started?
My perspective that I'm going to offer today is really to talk about how do we navigate the treacherous waters of the entertainment business, because all of you are here and I'm seeing it from the vantage point of music, film, and TV and how each of those things intersects. And spending time in this industry, trying to battle through as a woman, as a person of color, has its own set of challenges that need to be talked about in a room like this. I grew up in Roseland, and nobody believes that, first of all. But this is where I came from. So I came out of Chicago, and I've spent time living in New York, living in California. And the reason is because I felt like in order to break into this space, I had to spend time on the ground, getting to know the industry. People don't take you seriously if you don't speak the lingo. You don't spend time on set, spend time in the recording studio, etc. Being an attorney, that adds another layer. The way that I have to educate myself is to make sure that I'm constantly keeping up with what's going on in the business so that clients can feel like I relate to them. That's really what this is about. It's about accessibility. You know, when I'm representing someone, do I really understand you and how the music industry works and how publishing works? How do you monetize your talent? How do you make yourselves sustainable in this space? So my entire career has been about counseling people and not just giving legal advice, but giving life advice. Figuring out how do you, as a woman or a person of color or someone who didn't grow up with advantages, who weren't born into this, you don't walk into Hollywood and you already have everything laid out for you. I want to create access for our people. I want to create a pipeline of opportunity so that people who aspire to be in the business can actually get there.
Deborah?
Hi, my name is Heather Schooler, owner of the company Help Me Finish, and newly developed business billionaire breakthrough system. I want to talk today about my friend Zelda Robinson, who has created this mindful breakthrough system, which is absolutely phenomenal. And you want to know what I learned from it? I learned that I can stop the negative patterns in my life through one simple word: stop. And I think about that all the time. Every time I see a red light, I remember to stop. Every time I see a stop sign, I remember to stop. So even when I'm having a bad day and I can see a stop sign, it'll remind me of what Zelda's taught me. So if you guys haven't taken her program, you need to sign up for her program, because we all need to stop the negative voices in our head, and she's got the tools to help you do it. I'm Heather Schooler, owner of Help Me Finish, and I hope you guys sign up. And when you sign up, have a fantastic day every day, because that's what Zelda's going to teach you to do.
I
ask you, before you discovered Gucci Man and Nicki Minaj, and what was life like before then?
Well, first off, I want to say that my life didn't start with Gucci Man and Nicki.
Okay.
So I come from Queens, New York. I started then. I grew up with Russell Simmons. So this is not anything new. Even for my son, Walker's first 5 years of his birthdays was done with Run DMC. Their birthday is the same day. So this is not new to me at all. They didn't start me with this. People just started learning who I really was.
All right.
So I've done it a long time ago, and I sure wish she was around when I was there, because I made a lot of mistakes. And I just want to clarify something that she said too, to piggyback. One thing about all of us in this room in the urban community, we know how to get money. It ain't hard for none of y'all in this room to go up there and hustle up $1. That ain't the problem. Ain't nobody ever taught you what to do with $1. It ain't us making the money, it's how do we keep the money. And that's my mistakes. That's all the mistakes that I made. I was guilty of that. So my job in doing what I did, I just knew how to be a mother, and I was a hustler. But I never looked at the wolves that was in there, not knowing that the stick-up kid is in there too. Be it my lawyer, my CPA, whoever it was that I thought was okay, and especially if the color of their skin was white, I really thought that they was all right, because we wouldn't have this kind of money, so I know we would take it away. But they also got me too. So ignorance is something that's there.
So that brings me to a question. Actually, something just happened today. Women in the entertainment industry, how do we protect ourselves as entrepreneurs, as artists? Brenda, I'm going to direct this question to you. Today it came out that Taylor Swift catalog was sold to Scooter Braun, who is the manager of Justin Bieber and Kanye West. And she was all over social media, she was livid. My question to you is, how could she have protected herself? She signed when she was 15, so she probably had no knowledge, but how could she have protected herself?
You know, the way that people are monetizing their intellectual property is by controlling the distribution themselves. And the advantage of being in this point in history, this point in the universe, is that we have more access points now to be able to get our own content out and manage that ourselves. You know, I don't know what people did 20 or 30 years ago other than take chances. I had a client who, I don't know if there's any basketball fans here, but every year there's March Madness, of course, and this client wrote the theme song for March Madness. And so the actual guy who made up the song. So that was 25 or 30 years ago. And so he was a struggling songwriter, and he got an opportunity to sell that song for $25,000. And that's money he needed at that time. He thought, this is a great deal. Then he said, you know what, this is a tough choice you have to make. Maybe I'll make money doing something else, but I feel like I have something special with this song, so I'm not going to give it away just yet, even though, boy, that was a tough call to make in that moment. So now 25, 30 years later, CBS has to come back to him to license that every year. He's getting literally 7 figures, $1 million or more a year on that song for the rest of his life because he walked away from that offer. But practically speaking, how do you make a decision like that when you're sitting there broke and you're tired? So he had to be creative. What I always tell people as an attorney is don't make desperate decisions. And Reverend Jackson says this too, desperate people in desperate situations make desperate decisions. As much as you want to say, I want to make this deal right now, like Taylor Swift did, you have to figure out, okay, how do I balance all the different talents I have? How can I monetize all the different things that I can bring into the world? So the problem is if you make that quick decision in that moment, it can cost you for the rest of your life. That's the one thing I wish that music creators could focus more on, like, people need to tell them, hey, let's figure out ways to monetize all the things that you bring into the world. Because if you just make that one bad deal, that would impact the rest of your life. So don't allow yourself to be backed into a wall. Say, no, look, I am bringing value. This is my talent, my creation. I own this copyright. I'm keeping this mastered. And you're starting to see artists now pushing back on that. You see Prince, who, you know, obviously he's one of the better known people who held on to his publishing. And I was representing him for a while. He is the example of a person that says, you know what, I'm just going to keep, you know, he put the slave thing on his cheek, whatever. But he made the point, like, okay, I've got to fight through this and figure out how do I keep the ownership. So don't allow yourself to be backed into a wall and say, okay, let me just make this quick decision because it's going to make me some money right now, because you cost yourself millions later. And I think that's what happened. Of course, there's a lot on Twitter now about the specific circumstance with her, that she's saying, you know, I signed a deal with the devil, whatever. But I think the key is, because we're in a social media age, you look at like what Chance did, they are putting their own content out. And what I'm finding from the labels, you know, a lot of people say, well, how do I break into the business? How do I get a record deal? You know what the labels are telling you? You have to practically be famous already by the time you get to that. There is no, I'm talented, the A&R person is in the audience listening to me at, you know, at my set. They're going to discover me and offer me a deal. Most people have to basically make themselves famous, create an audience, put content out there, perform publicly. So by the time you get to the label, you did all the work. But this is what they're requiring now, is that you have to show your marketability and show, okay, if I did sign a deal with you, would you have an audience? Would somebody want to listen to your music? You see how before it was like you're talented, somebody finds you, they invest in you, they give you studio time, you make money, you become famous. That is not the industry right now. You have to do all the legwork yourself as the artist, get out there. But what comes with that is, okay, you can manage your own talent, manage your own intellectual property. You decide what gets out there and who sees it and how it's monetized. And then people will notice you. And now you're seeing people being discovered on YouTube, like Justin Bieber. A lot of people are breaking in through songwriting. It's not just performing. I do a lot of publishing deals where people are writing songs for other people, like Chris Brown, and then they realize, oh, you can sing too, or you have talents beyond that? Let me make you the star. And that's the path now. It's you taking charge of your own careers and you trying to control that as much as possible.